Welcome to the Real Integrative Medicine podcast. I'm Dr. Jordan Robertson, and I'm here to bring you the tools, insights, and strategies to take your health to the next level while using evidence-based integrative medicine. What's real? This is what we want to explore together. Research is ever-changing and not easy to interpret. We're bringing you the best that integrative medicine has to offer while sticking to the facts. Our mission is to elevate the practice of integrative medicine for clinicians and patients alike. Preventative solutions, nutrition, exercise, and sometimes supplements have a seat at the table in medicine, but only if we uncover real science-backed solutions. It's time to uncover what works and challenge what doesn't. Let's unlock your full health potential with an integrated approach. Ready to learn what's real? Let's dive in. All right, welcome to another episode of Real Integrative Medicine. We're having a big conversation today about behavior change. I am joined by a behavior change expert, Katie Faloon-Drew. Katie, thank you so much for spending time with us today on the show.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
I actually think this is my favorite area of medicine. I like hormonal health. I like endocrinology. I am the most interested in behavior change medicine. And have started to talk about medicine so differently, given that most chronic disease requires behavior change to have any kind of impact on it. I'm really jazzed for us to have this chat because I think people need to hear it from an expert around what it actually takes to make habit change so that they can have the outcomes that they're looking for in their health. I would love if you could kick us off by basically giving us your intro and sharing how you got to this spot, and what it is that you do with people when you're supporting them with respect to habit change.
Sure. So I'm a habit change expert. I mean, people are like, what is that? Right? Like, what the heck is that? So I have a master's degree in health psychology. So did my undergrad in human kinetics, was always really interested in the body and physiology and all those fun things. And then really got drawn to healthy habits. At the time, I didn't know why, but it was actually my medicine against depression and anxiety. Didn't know it when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, but now at 44, I know what it was. So had this natural draw, thought I was going to be a doctor like my dad, but just kept getting called back to, I just need everybody to know that moving your body and sleeping and eating is so good for your mind. It's so good for your spirit. And why are we getting bombarded, especially as women, with it just being about our weight? And so at a very young age, I was like, this is bull and I don't like this. And so that was what drew me. Went and did a master's degree in health psychology because I really wanted to learn, why is it? I keep looking around. It's like, people know this, but why aren't we actually doing it? So that was really, the master's degree was really around how do you promote physical activity specifically, is where my area of study was, but it was more about health behavior change, right? Then, very long story short, did, 17 years in government health policy, working on the Canada's Food Guide, and then did 7 years in the Canada's Food Guide, and did, worked on the opioid crisis. And then only a few years ago was like, wait a second, I want to use this. I want to use my own lived experience with mental illness and burnout. And I want to use all this education, and I really want to go back into service. So I wanted to coach, I want to speak, I want to train. And so it's been a few years. I've left government, actually fully left government only recently because I was kind of tiptoeing my way out. But that's kind of where I am now. So what I do is, I guess a piece of this too is I had all this knowledge, but in my early 30s, I did it all, the healthy habits, but admittedly for the wrong reasons, right? So I did fall into that trap. I had the job, had the career, had the husband, had the kids, had the 2 degrees, and was skinny and fit, and got to the top of that mountain of what society told me was going to make me happy. And I literally had a breakdown. I got the white picket fence and everything on my list checked off, and I had a full crash, full breakdown, off work, depressed, anxious. And so that almost, I think, is an important part of the journey too, because you can know theoretically how to change habits, my own personal experience, chasing health from the wrong angle has now actually helped me be able to serve women, especially to say, listen, been there, done there, got the t-shirt. Doing this for external validation and so that you love yourself, not because you love yourself, is not going to work. So that's kind of the big story now. So I'm a keynote speaker, workshops, love speaking, love doing workshops, and I coach. I coach mostly women, mostly over 35, but anyone who's knows what they should be doing but just can't seem to stick with it. So I'm not giving them a specific diet. I'm not giving them a specific workout plan. I'm working with them on the psychology behind why can't they stick to it? What's the ecosystem of their habits, of their life, of their day to day? Do they have the right goals? And then we basically work on changing that to finally stick with healthy habits for the right reasons and for the long term.
That's such a cool story. And it was making, as you were saying it, I was reflecting on, my own, eras, we'll call them,
Mm-hmm.
of time where I like, followed specific plan like to a T, or then there was times where I just like everything was like a total dumpster fire because probably in reaction or rebellion from those other eras, or it felt like things had to be all or nothing, right? It was like either my health was going to be this super hobby or I was just going to back burner it and do a whole bunch of other stuff instead. That turn, like sticking with it, I feel like I feel like we all need a little bit of a
Mm-hmm.
lesson on that. Where do you even start with that conversation with people? Like, how do you open up that can of worms around habit change?
So let's say you're a client that comes to me. I actually love to start. People will come to me like with a goal. For example, I want to lose weight or I need to get fit. I need to I'm whatever reason. I love starting in the place of, are your health goals actually the right ones? Are you approaching them from the right place? And so I always start with the question, why? So if you come to me and say, I need to exercise more. And I'll say, why? Well, because I need to lose weight. And I'll say, why? Well, because I need to fit back. I want to fit back in my clothes. And I'll say, why? And ultimately, what I've noticed from years of coaching is we're all just trying to feel like we're enough. And if you don't start there and you don't get clear on your why and you jump straight into action, oh, here's a plan, which is what 95% of people do, right? New Year's resolution, here's a plan, here's my workout, here's the next regime, here's the next diet. But they actually haven't stepped back and said, why? Why? Like, is this really aligned? Then, cognitive behavioral therapy, like it's all well and good. But if you go straight to your actions, understanding that your thoughts drive your feelings and your feelings drive your actions, if you haven't addressed the core values, how you feel about yourself, your belief systems, and this is where the coaching comes in, you are bound to fail in the action place because you've gone straight to action without really being sure that where you're going is really where you want to be.
And how about your people's, their first like 5 or 6 answers to that actually about other people? Like when you're like, well, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do this? Like how long does it take as you're peeling back those layers before we get to like someone's actual core why and we're actually those first 5 or 6 options or what other people
Mhm.
think or what other people have made me think I should do?
Usually I have like a workbook that we work through. And so I've literally designed it around answers. And I would say 3 to 4 layers, right? It's usually 3 to 4 layers. And sometimes it's not coming straight in. I'm not shaming someone who wants to lose weight. Listen, that can be an okay, like a longer term side outcome. But if that is your only goal, I'm telling you right now, that's why you're yo-yoing. It's shame based, it's long term. We can get into the science around habit change and why that doesn't work for your brain. But like right up front, it's really a great idea to step back and say, okay, what is it I really want? And ultimately, we just want to feel good. So whatever we're doing for our health, whatever we're doing, whether it's weight, whether even if we're saying I want to start weight training, why? Well, because I want to get stronger. Why? Well, because I want to feel good. Like ultimately, it's about how we want to feel good. So what I do in my unique approach is I flip the script, and I have my clients or audience pick how they want to feel first. And what's really interesting with that is they might have come to me with a goal of losing weight, but when we flip the script and say, wait a sec, actually, how do you want to feel every day? Some of them will break down and they're like, I just want to feel content. I want to feel like I'm enough. I want to feel at peace. I want to feel. And so then we're like, okay, let's work backwards now. What are some thought patterns and daily habits that we can instill so you feel that right away? And all of a sudden, it's such a beautiful thing because that 10-minute walk that wasn't going to do anything for your weight loss. So why the heck am I going to bother with it? All of a sudden, it will give me more energy. It will give me pride for showing up for myself. And so we're able to then kind of flip the script before we get into the why are habits hard. And, like doing that first is really, really important to set people in the right track. It almost relieves some pressure. So it's pretty deep. That's where the coaching comes in, but it's the most important part before we jump into action.
Yeah, and I imagine if you flip the switch on that, that even the path that you think you need to take to get to that goal starts to open up in terms of possibility. One of the things I've always appreciated from one of my mentors is like, Jordan, you cannot always control the how, right? Like you can say you have a goal, but like the how you get there is the part that you don't always get to be responsible for or in control of. But if you say, and when we get stuck on that, right? I'm like, but I wanted to do it this way, then it actually like makes us, maybe a little blind to all the other possibilities. Versus if you flip
100%.
it and say, I just want to feel better, like there's 9 or 10 different ways that I can feel better, actually.
Yes. And then it allows us to launch into, because habit change is hard, right? Like, this. I mean, rewiring our brain to create new neural pathways, to create new habits is very difficult at the beginning. First 3 weeks are the hardest. There's no exact time. Everybody asks me, how long does it take to change a habit?
How many days? Yeah.
There is no answer. From experience, in terms of health habits, I would say the first 3 weeks are super tough. It starts getting easier. 2 months is we're rolling. And as long as we have, so there's like, a range, but there is no like 28 days to like, that's something bull. Like that really depends on the habit you're changing and and who you are. So, but no matter what, it's going to be hard at the beginning. So having had these shame-based goals, let's say, or long-term goals, it is really, really hard to you need that instant gratification for your brain. You need the small steps. And so when we reframe it to tee ourselves up to get some small wins or some small things that are going to make us feel better, that's my tricky way of getting them to agree to baby steps, which is what you need for habit change. It's kind of the tricky way. If you just go to them straight away and say, you want to lose weight? Okay, well, listen, habit change works like this. So you're going to need to start really small. They're going to be like, no, I'll go to the next person who's going to give me a solution on how I can like lose weight in 2 months. So without that step of really understanding at the core what it is you want and getting buy-in that even these little steps will help right away, that's how I notice the change happens. Then you stack, then you can actually stack, and you can go from someone who's been sedentary their whole life, I've seen it, to weight training 5 times a week in the span of a few months, because the hardest thing is getting the proverbial shoes on, as you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so how do we, I'd love to talk about that like long-term goal versus short-term gratification. Because one of the things I found in practice is like, and maybe it was the time constraints or the approach, or they didn't think they were there for habit change. And so then I was like, tell me your deep why. And they were like, I don't know, because I want to, meet my grandkids one day. That people would often pick a goal that was like so far down the road, right? Like live longer or live independently forever or whatever it was. And then trying to tie that to like tomorrow's broccoli is very, very difficult. How do we help people create that connection between maybe what is their like, on paper long-term goal with like showing up for themselves today when they don't feel that much different when they have to do the habits every day?
That's exactly the reason why I feel it's important to have the daily goals of how you want to feel and attach the actions to that, because it's the only way you're going to be able to, at the end of the day, say, did I do something that made me feel more energetic today? Did I do something that made me feel proud, aligned, calm, patient, whatever it is they're choosing? I have tried so many different formulas. This is the one that works, because like I said, you can still have a long-term goal. Great. I mean, we know from health psychology though that, and even actually behavioral science, that everybody thinks they're invincible, right? So all the scare tactics do not work. They don't work. I worked on the drug files in Health Canada for years. Stop telling kids don't do drugs. That doesn't work. Like scare tactics don't work. So we know that saying, like as a practitioner, for example, you should be active. Well, first of all, everybody knows what they should be doing. So let's stop telling them, because you'd be got to be born under, I don't know, in some kind of barn somewhere where you don't know that you should eat well, exercise, sleep, basics, right? So they already know. It's also just about the fact that our brain cannot, our daily, in the moment, our actions are driven by our feelings. That's ultimately what it is. Like our actions are driven by our feelings. So in the moment, it actually doesn't matter. The long-term goal is not going to quote unquote motivate us, although I don't like the term motivation because it doesn't show up. But let's just use that for the sake of argument. We are not going to do the thing. We will put it off. We'll say, oh, like whatever, because in the moment, our brain is like, it's too, it can't compute that long-term goal. It's just too far away. And I'll figure it out tomorrow. I don't feel like it, right? I don't feel like it. So it doesn't work. So if we create some daily, I would say, goals, like I would say to someone, here are your new goals. You thought your goal was weight loss. Your new goal is I'm going to do XYZ every day to the best of my ability within a spectrum, right? Plan A, plan B. We need to be real. But my new goal is that I want to feel energetic, feel aligned, feel confident, whatever. That is so much easier to then get the dopamine hit that we need to keep our brain going day in and day out, if that makes sense.
Totally. It just makes me think of those habits where we don't feel that much better afterwards, but we still need to do them. And I'd love to know how you frame that, because I imagine there's a piece around like, if I eat the broccoli, then I know that I've done something for myself, and then I feel like I'm taking care of myself. And then maybe the short term is that feeling versus being like, this broccoli like totally made it for me today.
Yes.
Because that doesn't really happen, right? And I think that's when we look for that physiological feedback. We're so often disappointed because it doesn't make you feel any better to have broccoli. But how do we tie that in? Is it about like the success around eating well that we can get latched onto?
So in that case, so this works really well for exercise, as you could imagine, right? So it works really well for exercise because you do get that immediate endorphin. I mean, not everyone, some people don't, so, some will get more than others. I always like to ensure that there's one goal, and I do lead a little bit, but one daily goal around like pride, showing up for myself, like basically like what's that, exactly like you said. So let's say I'm trying to change my eating patterns. And you're right. I want that cookie, but I know that my goal is to try to swap out. My realistic goal is I'm going to swap out one treat for an apple or something that's realistic. Because I want to feel a sense of pride every day in myself, when I do that, I'm like, I'm really proud of myself for doing that. So you can absolutely, depending on your behaviors, I work with a lot of clients that are trying to increase exercise. So sometimes we don't want to do this. They don't need to do this. When it comes to nutrition, absolutely, you got to be a little bit inventive. So what is it, something that you've got a specific goal, and how do you feel after you've done that? I feel really proud of myself. I created a goal that's realistic. Check. Like we do need those check marks in our brain in order to keep doing it. We do need it.
I love that. And I think it's a helpful way to put it, because not like when I think of habit change, I think of all the things, and some of them there isn't enough like instant gratification from it. But I like that reframe that like the gratification is actually just the success, right? That I did the thing that I said I was going to do. And I said that this thing was important to me, and I'm proud of myself for executing on it. And then that becomes the gratification rather than getting some like kind of physiological feedback from it.
Yeah. Yeah, because in some cases you will, like if it's movement, that's a lot easier, and in some cases you won't. And if it's a case of actually stopping a harmful behavior, that's a whole other ball of wax, right? Like, lowering your wine intake. I mean, you can actually have physiological impacts, negative impacts at the beginning of habit change, right? So you really have to ebb and flow depending on what it is. I work more on the start behaviors than the stop behaviors, but you've got to kind of pivot depending on what it is. But The pride piece then will come in when there is no instant gratification that day. Something about
Mhm.
showing up for yourself, tracking it, but small and incremental, that does help. But also, you know what? I think we have to be more open with people that it's hard to change habits, and
Mhm.
it's not like
Mhm.
impossible, because we don't want to project and say it's so hard, don't do it. But I do a lot of talks around the neuroscience of habit change. And the best analogy I have is like, it's pretending that let's say you're sedentary, or you're used to, I don't know, eating junk food every night. Like your body's used to it. This is the mode you're in. Well, in your brain, it's like you're on a bicycle, and you're like, I have an image for this in my talks, like you're woo, like it's sun is shining, it's a beautiful path, and it's like, downhill, and you're just free riding, and then your brain is like, this is lovely, I love staying in homeostasis, I don't want to change. Your brain wants the comfortable thing. Like automatically we are wired that way. And so you're going to continue to do that. All of a sudden at the beginning, when you have to change a habit, even if you're not actually comfortable, your brain wants to stay the same. That's what people kind of don't understand. You're probably not in a state of comfort if you are eating junk food every day, or if you're sedentary or whatever. You're actually not comfortable. So there's a difference between your brain like it's a homeostasis. Your brain just is in that mode. All of a sudden, you need to make a change of behavior. Picture it like you kind of got to white knuckle that bike and take it and take a left-hand turn and go up the mountain biking path. You don't know where it leads you. It's kind of uphill. It's like, ooh, my brain is like, I don't know about this. I don't know if I'm safe on this. I don't know where this goes. The first time that you do it is hard. You really do have to white knuckle that bike on the left. The cool thing though is that the more times that you make that decision to take that bike off of the path and turn it onto the mountain biking path, you've packed it down a little bit, you know where it leads, you've built the muscles in your legs, so all of a sudden it's easier, you have a sense of pride, you know what I'm saying? So that path is never going to be easier when it comes to healthy habits. It's always going to be easier to stay on the couch. It's always going to be easier to get takeout. It's always going to be easier. But the more that you've trained the neural pathways in your brain to create the pride and the habit of taking that mountain biking trail and starting to build the muscle around that, absolutely the easier it'll get. But we do have to manage expectations that it's not going to be easy. So many people say, oh, it must be nice to be motivated to work out. I'm like, I'm not motivated. I just do it because I've created like I just do it because I've created the habit. I still don't want to go in my basement and work out. I'd rather sit on the couch and drink coffee, but we have this unrealistic expectation that we should wait for energy and motivation before we do something. And that's not how it works. So we do have to educate people around that as well. It's going to be hard at first, but guess what? It's going to be easier and it's going to be worth it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And as someone who is like a real solid gym goer, I would say that people often say that like, oh, that's so good. Like, that's so great that you love it so much. And I'm like, oh no, I complain the whole time. Like
Yeah.
like my poor
Yeah.
coach, right? Like it's like the
Yep.
complaining is mandatory. I go to 100% of the sessions, but I complain in 100% of them. Like that's just because that's what it is. It's, I mean, really, the complaining is now part of it. But there's, it never becomes the shiny, sunny, like yay, all downhill. Like I don't even have to pedal. Image. It's always a little bit uphill, a little bit sore, and it's a little bit freezing rain.
Yeah, right. But then the more you've done it, the more you've trained your brain to understand that there is going to be a benefit, because there's going to be pride, there's going to be endorphins, there's like, so you've almost just like created those new neural pathways that it gets easier and easier to take that bike off of that path. But when we make people think that it should be easy to change paths, they're like, well, something's wrong with me then. Must be nice for
Mhm.
you. Something's wrong with me. No, it's not. There's nothing wrong with you. And you can do it. We just have to acknowledge that it's going to be a little bit hard at first. And then that's where we put the tips and tricks in, which is, you know, starting small, like all of the habit change science is how to hack your brain at the beginning. And that's where it's really interesting to work with people, because once they understand that and they can do those tactics in the first 3 weeks, then it will become easier. Most people, it's not about the workout. It's about literally getting the shoes on and stopping overthinking it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is you or not, but if you're a naturopathic doctor or an integrative practitioner who prides yourself on being evidence-based, but don't have time to stay up to date with the research yourself, I have a solution for you. I'd love to invite you to explore and join the Confident Clinician, the only integrative medicine clinical decision-making tool that helps get research from PubMed into your practice with ease. We have built out exactly what you need to be the most efficient in your work, to be the best in your community, and to save you those precious hours that you're spending right now doing the research yourself. Joining with our premium membership gives you access to unlimited AI searches, gives you access to all of our previous database content, as well as our upcoming year of live delivered modules. You can check out more in the link in the show notes. I would love to see you inside of our community. We're making a huge difference in the way that practitioners practice integrative care and raising the bar for evidence-based integrative medicine. I hope you'll join us.
How important, Katie, is reflection in those first 3 weeks? Because it's something I think of like often where there's like almost like we have like a anticipatory discomfort, right? Like this is going to
Mm-hmm.
be so sucky. And then we do it, right? It's like when people don't want to
Mm-hmm.
go to the party and then they go to the party and they're like, ah, I guess I had an okay time, right? And it
Yeah.
almost like, but without that reflection after, of like, okay, it wasn't so bad. Okay, I did have someone I could talk to. Okay, it wasn't as terrible as I thought it was going to be. I guess I'll go the next time I'm invited, right? Like we don't close the loop. And I find that so many patients are very quick to dismiss when they have achieved something. And it's like, oh, yeah, yeah, I went, whatever, like one time. But without that like reflection on like, well, how did you feel? Was it as bad as you thought? What was great about it? That they're not always like closing the loop on, okay, so next time when you go to anticipate how terrible this is going to be, can we just remember this moment? And turns out it wasn't as hard as you thought, or it wasn't as bad as you thought. What do you normally do around that? And how do you close that loop for people after they've really built it up in their mind that the change is super hard? And then as they're starting to achieve it, how do we help them make those connections?
So I have a couple tactics, and let's just talk about exercise just because it's the easy
Mhm.
example. I mean, nutrition is a little bit trickier, right? Because again, we're not going to maybe get that direct dopamine hit after, although you can use something, but let's just use exercise as an example.
Yeah.
What I do with my clients, so my one-on-one clients, what I would do one of two things. I actually have them either journal, although some people are like journal, they want to smack you in the face when you say journal, but like if you're serious about this, I want a commitment of the first week. Let's just start small. The first week, I want you to just write in your journal, wherever you're going to do with your walk. I want you to say, how do I feel? 3 lines, 1, 2, 3. That, or I get them to send me a voice note on Voxer because I coach my clients on Voxer in between sessions. Accountability is super huge. Um, and then I love the voice note actually. People could, so if you're listening and you don't have a coach, do this to yourself. This is a great take home. Give yourself a voice note or record a little video of yourself before you're doing it. Go and do it. Rip the band-aid. Mel Robbins, 5 4 3 2 1. Hack the brain. You know your brain's trying to stop you. Just do it. Just do it. Afterwards, record a voice note again. I have my clients do that sometimes for like a few days, and I love it. It's my favorite thing in the world. I get them to go listen. Go listen to your voice. Go listen to the way you spoke before you did your walk at lunch. I don't want to do this. Oh, I'm so tired. And then, oh my God, I'm so glad I did this. But you're right. We know that. But sometimes we have to actually document it so that we can go back and train our brain. And so sometimes some clients will say, after about a week or 2 or 3, depending on the person, they no longer have to document because they've trained their brain enough to know that it's going to be worth it. Now, they'll still have to do it. They still have to, like, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden everything's solved and it's super, super easy, but there is that reinforcement that your brain has gotten through the either journaling or the voice notes. So I love that idea. And even if you don't have a coach, videotape yourself. Nobody has to see it. Videotape yourself before and after. And the next time you don't feel like it, go back and look at it.
I love that. That's such a great idea. I love those before and afters because I even imagine like their tone is different, right? Where it's like, oh, I did my
Mhm.
exercise now and I feel so much better. And even being able to like point that out in ourselves, I think makes such a huge difference. The like, okay, I didn't want to go, but now look how I feel.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's such a great strategy.
Yes. Yes, and expectations. I mean, this is such a life coaching hack, like in general. But I would say one of the biggest mindset changes for anyone trying to create new healthy habits is their expectations. Not just their expectations of now I'm 40 or 43 with kids and a job, and I'll wait a sec, I'm still expecting that I'm going to do 3 CrossFits a week and look like I did when I was 30. I mean, there's those expectations. We definitely have to manage those expectations. But there's also this weird expectation that it should be easy, or this weird expectation that, like, I should have the energy for this. I should feel motivated to do this. No, 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 no. Like, so working with patients, clients, and just actually acknowledging the hard, like holding space. It's okay. It is going to be hard. It's hard for everybody. That's all right. But you can do it anyway. You can hack your brain, and kind of inspiring, because you also don't want to air too much on the habit change is so hard. Of course, people aren't going to do it then. So, but there's a bit of a balance between toxic positivity around habit change, right? And holding space that it is difficult at the beginning, but explaining why your brain is meant to keep you comfortable and safe. This is how it works. Don't wait for motivation and energy, but try these tactics. Start small. It will get easier, but what in the moment, expect it to be hard. Then you can use some of the tactics, like how can we reduce some of the barrier? Like, for example, how do we take away some of the friction? Like, do you need to put your workout clothes on? Do you need to have a personal trainer so that you're not confused about what to do? So you can use then some of the habit change science once you've debunked this idea that it's supposed to be easy and you're supposed to feel like it.
Mm-hmm. I'm so curious, Katie, how do you strike a balance between being like compassionate for where people are at, but also getting them to change, right? I think sometimes when we listen to the stories of our patients or of our clients, and if, for people that are listening that are like, well, I have, inflexible in my job and I have 3 kids and I have no help and my partner travels and like there is compassion for that, but then they also would like to change or have a goal. How do we meet them in this space between being compassionate but also actionable and not just compassion them into inaction, which I think is very
Mhm.
possible when people present with even like us as clinicians listening to them, we're like, dude, you got a lot of barriers here. Like, I don't know how I'm going to fix this. But yet, like being, if we're so accommodating to people's overbooked schedules and right, like we'll actually never help them get to where they want to go. Like, how do
Mhm.
we balance that conversation?
I wish every single practitioner was trained in motivational interviewing or coaching. I mean, coaching is a little bit long, but I did a motivational interviewing certification in like 2 days from York University, right? Like, I I will, like, as someone who's obviously does this for a living, I can tell anyone who's a practitioner that telling them is not going to change. Like, don't tell them what to do. They know, like, so prescribing and telling is not helpful. You can, you can say this would be really great and why. I mean, let's be probably honest, they know why, right? Convincing them why, long-term health, energy, they know. If you only have 5 minutes, 10 minutes with someone, the way you get them to move forward is just through asking them questions. How do you feel? Is is these like is your current habits, is that making you feel energetic and good? No? Okay. Get inquisitive. Interesting. Has there been a time where you felt like active, or like whatever it is you're trying to do, right? When you felt energetic, this is why I like picking the words, right? It all comes back to here. Has there been a time where you have felt energetic and rested? Well, yeah. What were you doing in that time? draw it out of them. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So I understand, like we can't, it's like you can't tell someone to change. They have to decide to change. So as practitioners, you can absolutely ask the questions and draw it out of them so then the question could be, and I'll just give an example. Oh yeah, it sounds like you're really busy. How do you want to feel? Well, I want to feel energetic. Like, okay, so like, do you think that like creating some space for physical activity might help you? Well, yeah, I think so. What do you think could be realistic for you? I know you're really busy, but what do you think might be realistic? And then let them talk. And then just keep drawing it out and keep drawing it out and keep drawing it out. And then get to them to the place of saying, what is one thing that you think you could just change? Just one little thing. Like, is there one thing you could take an action on? Then they are so much more likely to do it. Instead of saying, I think you should. They're gonna like, I mean, some people that might work for, but at least in my experience, it doesn't work. But this is why coaching works, right? And this is why, but there's no reason that practitioners can't use the tactics of motivational interviewing and coaching with their clients. And so ask the questions instead of giving the prescription of what to do. That then the great thing is like, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. One little thing, just do that. I'd love to hear about that next time when we meet. I'd love to hear how that's going. Boom, accountability. So that is really, really powerful as a practitioner, because I know that you don't necessarily, it's not like a coach where you're meeting with them constantly, but when they leave having come up with their own idea and it's small enough and it passes the giggle test of being realistic enough that they think that they're going to come report on it to you or someone else after, much, much more likely for them to do it because it came from them.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, whenever I'm working with clinicians, I always want to emphasize that piece around coaching. I'm like, yeah, the prescriptions, whatever. Like that's the easy part. The hard part is like the navigating the conversation so that there's compliance even with the things that you have prescribed. Let's say something's just a straight up prescription. That's still a habit that still requires coaching and discussion around how to be successful with it. But the real change comes from them creating space for their health, creating space for themselves. I'm curious what you think about, and I've used this phrase before, but like, how often are we giving women gold stars for bad self-care behavior? Like, how much is that sort of like rewards through work, rewards through society, like reinforcing for people to not change? And how do we get around that when someone's had their whole career, they've elevated their whole career based on self-sabotage and self-betrayal, and now we're asking them to like, no, like we need you to meditate, like please find 5 minutes, and yet they've been really praised for not acting in their own best interest.
The only way that this has worked for me is doing what I was saying at the beginning of this call, which was taking a step back. And now I don't know necessarily how much time practitioners would have to do this, but it could be done in a smaller way, which is what really matters to you. Like just pulling them off the treadmill for a second. It sounds so simple, but someone's like, I gotta do this, gotta do this, gotta do this, gotta do this. And then you're like, oh, so what's like really matters to you? Like if you were diagnosed with something in 2 weeks, like ultimately where are your values? What really matters to you? I'll ask clients this. And it'll be like, well, family, kindness, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay. And so how do you want to feel? Like, so the values and the feeling conversation, how do you want to feel? It almost resets them a little bit to say, okay, well, and great. So you're saying you want to feel like this. You're saying your values are this. How are your actions in line with that or not? So is working all the time and never, all the excuses of why you can't work out and all the things, is that making you feel the way you want to feel? Calm, connected, pride, whatever it is. So like you take my trick of asking them, if you only have 5 minutes, how do you want to feel every day? And then you just ask the question, is what you're doing making you feel that? It's not to shame them. Just ask the question. When they come up with saying, well, no, not really, I guess. Okay, is there something small you could tweak? And maybe that is movement and maybe that is sleep. It's going to be different for everyone. But that is the only way I've felt that it gets people out of that loop because there's so many excuses, but our brain is doing that too, right? Our brain is actually coming up with excuses because this is just what we're used to. This is our belief system. And so it's almost, we have to disrupt that belief system. And you can do it in a non-threatening way when you ask them authentically and beautifully, like, how is it that you want to feel? Some people just have never been asked that question.
It's almost like that. And I love that Brene Brown, like operationalizing your value, right? If you say your value is this, like, is it in your, like, where is it? Like, where is it in your calendar? Like, where, like,
Yeah.
in the span of your X number of days you have in the week, like, where is it?
Yeah. What is it, her or someone else that said, like, if you want, if I want to see what your priorities are, I'll look at your bank account and your schedule.
Yeah, I think that's such good advice. And I think, just to like bring it full circle here, like what I'm hearing you say, and I would love for you to share with our audience, it's like, it's the small change, but it's also about getting like deeply connected to your purpose, your why, like the things that are important to you that seem to make the biggest difference when it comes to habit change.
Yes. So if I was to kind of wrap it in a bow, I would say, first, let's acknowledge that changing habits are difficult, but not impossible. So we need to set ourselves up for the most success and use certain tactics, right? The first thing is the all or none doesn't work, right? The New Year's resolutions don't work. So we know what doesn't work. All or none doesn't work. Shame-based long-term goals don't work because your brain doesn't work that way. What does work? Well, your brain needs some instant gratification, right? Some kind of instant gratification. So that's one thing. But it also needs like bite-sized things to work on. So when you ground it in how you want to feel, it flips the script, because as a busy person, right? If you created a health goal that's based out of shame, my doctor's telling me I should eat well. Well, if it's not actually what you want, you're not going to do it, right? Or I should work out because I should lose weight. If you don't, like, if that's not in line with actually what you want, you're not going to do it. Maybe you really, really want to lose weight, but because it's a long-term goal that's based out of shame and you've got a long to-do list, and then at the end of the day, you're exhausted. Well, we've already established that our behaviors are driven by our feelings. What's the last thing you're going to do? Something that makes you feel like crap, right? So I mean, I'm not wrapping it up in a bow. I'm digressing again, but really
It's a big bow,
start
but
from
we like
how
it.
do you want to
We
feel.
love it.
It's a big bow. Start from how you want to feel. Number one, how do you want to feel every day? I don't care what your goals are. Love you, but I don't care what your goals are at this point. Scratch them. How do you want to feel every day? Number one, I pick 3 words, paste them everywhere. This is your new goal. Now you look at your thought patterns and your actions and you say, just do a bit of an assessment. Interesting. I want to feel calm, but this is what I'm doing. I want to feel energized, but I'm drinking one and stay up till 12 watching Netflix, and then I'm wondering why I'm not energized the next day. Not in a shameful way, just do an assessment. Then pick one small thing that you can do, one small thing, because we've already established that habit change is hard at the beginning. So if you kind of just get it warmed up a little bit and you pick that one thing, I want to feel more energized. My first thing is I'm going to set an alarm on my watch and I'm going to bed at 10 every night this week. Okay, great. Is that realistic? Does it pass the giggle test? It has to be so easy that you'll be able to do it, no problem. You do that for a week and then be like, oh, interesting. Then maybe you can add something else on. Then you can, I mean, we probably don't have time today. I go through this in my whole program and when I'm coaching, there's lots of tactics. You can read Atomic Habits if you want some of the tactics too, but there's lots of tactics in the moment to set yourself up for success, right? Reduce the friction. There's habit stacking. There's a whole bunch of tactics that you can use. Let's not even worry about that right now. Just decide how you want to feel. Have a little bit of an assessment of your thought patterns and behaviors. Are they feeding that or not? And then start picking one little thing and then stick to it. So how do you stick to it? That's where the accountability comes in, investing sometimes in either a coach or telling a partner or finding a friend to do it with, self-monitoring. There's lots of tactics there, but the biggest thing I'm noticing people fail at is they do it all or none. They try and they say, I'm going to do everything. That is not how your brain works. You cannot decide on January 1st, after being sedentary for a month or 2 or 3, to just go balls to the wall and just pick everything at once. So I think even understanding some of the science will hopefully help people to say, oh, it's not laughable in terms of it's not actually going to work. I just need to understand the neuroscience of it and then build my bricks this way instead of crashing down from the top down. Then it's like, oh, this is worth it actually. Oh, great. And then we keep adding from there.
I love that. You called out so many things there. And I feel like it's like such a summary of my like 15 years in practice all in one, like all the things that people, felt like they should just be able to get like this are actually like deep grooves of pattern of just the other habits, right? And it's like you don't just wake up the next day and you're like, and now I'm magically a brand new different person and I'm going to do things totally differently. It's like your brain is actually clumsy if we go over here, right? It's like it's slow and it's hard and it's clumsy to try on those new habits. And even if they're better, even if they're going to make you healthier, we so much would rather like fall back into those old habits and old neural grooves essentially.
Mhm.
And then building the new is so difficult. I think that like being able to share it in that way and that it's actually like a muscle that we need to flex over and over and over again to create strength and to create consistency with it is so helpful, because I think we just assume that it's all about willpower or motivation and we're waiting for this like magical spark to fly in our brain and then suddenly we'll love vegetables, when it's very much a very different process that's actually happening. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then ultimately this is a marathon, not a sprint. Yeah, you can stick with a 6-week program or this fad diet, but how many people do you know and how many clients are yo-yoing? Because they've created this like specific time limited like outcome that they can get to, but they have kind of like lost the forest for the trees. It's like what is it? The best nutrition plan and the workout plan is the one you can stick to. So picture it the opposite way. How am I going to slowly build the bricks of the healthy lifestyle that works for me to make me feel the way I want to feel, and start with the brick by brick by brick? Anything you're doing should be something you can maintain. Within that, you're going to have a plan A and plan B. That's life. You might have a goal of 3 workouts a week, which is your plan A, and 1 week out of the month, ladies, we all know we kind of probably need a plan B. No problem. What's your plan B? I'm going to do a 10-minute walk. Great. So there are tactics within that, but you're building brick by brick the person you are becoming. I am someone who prioritizes my health. I am someone who, it's not like I am sprinting to this end date of finishing this race, finishing this program, losing this weight. That's a sprint. It's not a marathon. Life is a marathon. So is building a healthy lifestyle.
I love that. Thank you so much, Katie. How can our listeners find you and what do you have coming up next that we can pay attention to?
So my website's healthyconfidentyou.com and all my socials are there. It's probably the easiest way to access me. I've got a button to, chat. You can email me. You can follow me on Instagram. Everything you can find on the website. And yeah, I have the cool thing with, I coach people in 3-month habit change programs, but some people just either aren't ready for that or maybe don't have the funds for that. I also love to promote that I do a 90-minute strategy session. Sometimes you just need to understand where is your next step. Where are your goals aligned? And so I do that, a 90-minute strategy session. And you don't need anything after that. So happy to give your listeners 20% off if they mention your podcast, if they want to do that. But best way to reach me, yes, healthyconfidentyou.com.
Awesome. And we'll put the links to all of that right in the show notes so you can click off right from Spotify or Apple or wherever you are tuning in from. Thanks so much, Katie. This was really valuable. I feel like it's going to be the first brick of many of the conversations we have on the podcast about different healthy habits, but talking about the science of the actual habit change is something that we've not spent a lot of time on. So I really appreciate your time today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
That's it for today's episode of the Real Integrative Medicine podcast. I hope you're feeling inspired, informed, and ready to make changes that truly support your health. If you found value in today's discussion, don't forget to hit subscribe, share this episode with someone who needs it, and leave a review. It helps us reach even more listeners just like you. Your health journey is personal and it's powerful. Let's keep building on the knowledge to give you the confidence you need to thrive. It's important to remember that the Real Integrative Medicine podcast is for educational purposes only. Be sure to talk to your doctor before making any personal health changes. This podcast isn't intended to diagnose you, and no doctor-patient relationship was formed by listening. We'll see you next week.